Hello, I'm Tracy Adams, Global Partnership Director here at Metapack, the trusted global e-commerce delivery platform, and welcome to Buy Online, Pick Up in Store Hybrid E-commerce, which forms part of our Trading Through Disruption virtual series. Joining us for the discussion today is Fluent Commerce's Rob Shaw. Would you mind introducing yourself, please, Rob?
Yeah, hi Tracy, good to talk to you today. So my name's Rob Shaw. I'm the Managing Director for EMEA for Fluent Commerce. For those of you who don't know Fluent Commerce, we're a cloud-native distributed order management platform headquartered in Sydney, Australia, but with operations throughout Europe and North America.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, shall we start the discussion? Rob, how has COVID-19 crisis changed the way retailers think about their business, and how can they satisfy their customer needs?
Okay, so first off, Tracy, I think we need to acknowledge that the cost on human life from the COVID-19 pandemic has been truly tragic, and our thoughts are with everyone who's been affected by the virus. From an economic standpoint and from a retailer standpoint, I would say, first off, I think the sentiment is there was initially a lot of consumer frustration. And consumer frustration really around supply chains. You know, once stores were shut and we were in lockdown, there was a real concern about how they could get products, how businesses could actually fulfill demand. And we saw some pretty horrific cases where businesses were disrupted overnight. Catastrophically. If you take the example of someone like a Primark, for example, which went from £650 million a month business to zero overnight because they didn't have an online operation, everything was through stores. And then you had well-established and tier one global retailers like Next, who had to suspend operations whilst they could reconfigure warehousing to enable safe social distancing. And that, in effect, has also affected their ability to deliver. So I guess the underlying consensus that we're seeing is there's a need for all businesses to really evaluate business continuity and disaster recovery strategies should something as horrific as COVID-19 happen again.
Excellent. And we're seeing the same problem for retailers, that stock is stuck in store and social distancing means less staff managing warehouse operations. And as you know, we've been working closely with our customers to develop solutions to address the near-term challenges and to see what services we can make available longer term, like ship from store, to serve customers how they want to be so that they feel happy and comfortable and well looked after as this crisis unfolds, and also into the future as it changes the way that we live and think.
Yeah.
Is there an active interest in improving the click and collect customer experience? If so, what issues are retailers and brands trying to solve in that space?
Yeah, I think, again, going back to my point about business continuity, I think click and collect was a way of certainly enabling consumers to pick up essential goods. Without human interaction, we could have curbside pickups, etc. That was seen as something that in the early stages of lockdown was a prevalent business case moving forward. As consumers, I think we've got used to now an environment where we've got instant gratification. We got used to, companies like Amazon have got us all tuned to having same day or next day delivery options, and that was the norm. And with the pandemic as it was, all of that capability had gone. So we were seeing delivery timeframes of 5, 6, 7, 8 days. It was virtually non-existent to get a delivery slot for groceries. And the grocers and the supermarkets have done an amazing job keeping open and supplying demand. But certainly, I think there is an absolute requirement to enhance click and collect. Even before the lockdown, we were seeing that typical SLAs for click and collect services were around 2 to 3 days. Sometimes it was 24 hours, but the majority were 2 to 3 days. And the reason for that is because most businesses fulfill click and collect orders via warehouse stock or single channel stock items. They're not utilizing the store that's the stock that's closest to the consumer. and that tends to be in stores.
Mm.
The reason for that is because they don't have visibility of stock in stores at a moment in time. So there's definitely a drive to get that clear single view of inventory across a business.
Oh, so with an accurate understanding of retailers' entire stock, they can start using stores to fulfill and drive footfall and save money, I'm sure, and then use this data as well to determine how they then stock those stores with items that are being ordered frequently. I wanted to share some insight from one of our global e-commerce consumer reports with you, Rob. 59% of consumers are using a click and collect service, which I thought was really high, and I was surprised by that. And 34% of those are collecting orders online, orders from store every month, which again I thought was quite a large number. And impressive is 41% of those say they bought something else when they've gone into the store. So if the store gets this right, they're not just driving traffic to collect product that they've got efficiently, they're also going to get the opportunity to upsell to those customers while they're in the store. So some interesting facts, I'm sure you would agree.
I totally agree with you. And on that last point, which was around how the average basket value increases through click and collect services, that's absolutely right, because what you're doing is actually capturing the customer at their point of inspiration. They're in that buying mode. So by making it more convenient for them to see items that complement their original purchase is a way of how businesses are increasing that basket value.
You know, wouldn't it be nice if they had an area where that dress is going to look and the shoes were right next to it for you to think about? I'd like that personally. Rob, what are you hearing in terms of the top 3 inventory visibility challenges right now for retailers?
Yeah, good question. I guess, look, as consumers, we've got 2 fundamental questions, right? Do you have what I want? And when can I get it? That's it. And so, this is where the safe option is to take a centralized view and ship from a warehouse where you've got a good stock inventory level and you've got good visibility. When stock is pushed around an enterprise, it becomes more of a challenge and kind of a costly challenge, or historically it was a costly challenge. So I think the top 3 challenges or priorities as I see it currently, the first is really providing that single view. So stock can exist in lots of different areas. It can be in store, it can be in warehouse, it can be in third-party logistics companies, it can be even in transit. But to provide a real-time view of what's that stock visibility is absolutely pivotal to enable businesses to provide a promise of what they can sell, and from consumers to see real choices in the items that they want and the options that they have to receive it. So that's the first point, is providing that single view of inventory. And in every single one of the client engagements that we talk to, single view of inventory is the number 1 priority. Fact. Second point is scalability and reliability. So I think what coronavirus has proved is that businesses have had to adapt to peak trading every day. There's only one channel currently open to the majority of businesses, which is online. So they're having to deal with unprecedented volumes. So if I take one of our customers as an example, in April 2020, they saw a 281% increase in volume on the same period last year.
Wow.
And to be able to facilitate that demand, can you imagine having to manage the infrastructure to cope with that? But that is the new normal. It's peak trading every day. So scalability is something that is very high on everyone's agenda. I think the promise of what true cloud native solutions can offer is absolutely paramount in most people's minds at the moment. And then the third point is mostly around flexibility and accessibility. So flexibility means that you must be able to have an environment where you can adapt to change, right? And you can change processes and demands based on what you're seeing in the market. First point is that flexibility, the ability to make those changes. The second point is making sure that the data that you're working to is accessible across all channels. So everybody has the same view. And if I'm a business in Aberdeen and I have a customer in Bournemouth, as an example, to show two extremes in the UK, I want those customers to be able to purchase from enterprise-wide stock, not just the stock that's local to them at that moment in time. So having that data in real time, accessible to both business users and consumers is another important challenge.
Excellent. And on the subject of flexibility and accessibility, we've seen that delivery is clearly a key factor into all of this, is, you know, being able to find it, but also to be able to deliver to the consumer. We're seeing that many retailers that have multiple carriers on board are able to flex their volumes and use that to their advantage as these peak times. And just another factor for the audience is that Metapack's actually performing at pretty much peak every day and ticking along very nicely. And whilst we saw that health and beauty and sports and leisure skyrocketed at the beginning of the coronavirus lockdown, we're seeing that fashion is now starting to recover. And a lovely fact I uncovered from our reports this morning was that flowers and gifts have grown 264% year on year, which means that people are still wanting to buy things, but instead of maybe for themselves, they're buying them for others to cheer them up while we're stuck in this crisis.
It's a good point, actually. So I did see a presentation by one of the analysts at Forest, Nick Barber, recently, and one of the stats that sat in my head there was that they're seeing that 50% of consumers are buying items online that they've never bought online before, right? And they've now got used to that. So things like groceries, obviously, because we don't really have a choice in some areas. Second things is things like households, because we're starting to see that we've got more time at home in lockdown. So people tend to be decorating more or changing designs of their houses. And the third point is around kids, right? Looking after children, because suddenly you've got children that are being homeschooled. They're around you 24/7. You've got to keep them active.
Absolutely.
Right? Keep them busy. So I think there's a massive shift in how people are buying, and I'm not convinced that's not going to be with us forever.
I agree, and
now.
you know what? It's made me realise I don't need all the things that I used to buy as well. You know, so my thought process around that has also changed. Rob, what are your recommendations for retailers post lockdown?
Yeah, good question. I guess the first point that we're seeing is a lot of the people that we talk to and engage with are unfortunately shackled by their processes, their structures, and their technologies, actually. So technology should be an enabler and never a constraint. There's definitely a shift away from long time frames, expensive to deploy types of solutions, and the need to having more lighter, more agile, flexible solution offerings. It really boils down to the fact that unless something's got a rock solid return on investment, projects are going to be put on hold or be killed altogether. And I think, to really summarize that, it's about moving forward. It's really coined by what Darwin said, right? Which is the species that survives is the one that is able to best adapt and adjust to the changing environment that it finds itself in. And that's never been more true.
No, amazing. Well, thank you for that quote. We're seeing that consumers are demanding more tracking and on their parcels. So if you can imagine, like you say, we're sat at home waiting for whatever it is that we've ordered. So giving customers and consumers the ability to get that information. Some statistics on that is that 90% of consumers track their parcels, and of those 82% actually want to start receiving that information from the brand rather than a carrier, so that they get real-time interaction with those brands. So maybe food for thought for some of the brands that don't have enterprise class tracking experiences. And yeah, on that point, I just wanted to say that Fluent and Metapack, our platforms work together, but that we've got joint retailers benefiting from our joint solutions. Anything else that you want to add to the conversation, Rob, before we wrap up?
Yeah, I guess the point, the last point you've made there is a couple of things I would add. Firstly, is I definitely think there's winners and losers as part of what we've seen during lockdown. And the winners for me in retail are the ones that communicate well and often with their consumers. You know, we're buying our products from retailers. We're not necessarily buying them from carriers and logistics companies, as great a job as they do. So I do concur with what you're saying there about having that communication and enabling that real-time tracking from a brand is absolutely important. I think the other thing that I see more often, and kind of the headline is that the biggest asset a business has is its product. And if your product's not visible, you can't sell it and you can't supply demand. So the one, you know, it was already a key driver before coronavirus, but it's now number one in every single conversation we're having is utilizing store stock, treating stores like mini warehouses, and being able to adapt to change. So one of our customers was able to shift a process from a ship from warehouse model to a ship from store model within 5 days. They could only do that by having an architecture that was flexible enough to adapt to change. So we definitely see that as a trend now that's going to be with us for the foreseeable future. And I think as well, we need to all be aware that this does feel like it's the new norm, where peak trading is happening every day. And there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel for retail, right? I definitely feel that business is starting to get back to normal. I think the initial shock of lockdown is over. And now one of the benefits that we're seeing is the real collaboration between retailers and suppliers, and coming together to think about how we actually move forward. So there are some nice benefits that have come from a very unfortunate situation.
Thank you. Thank you for taking time, Rob, to come and talk to Metapack today, and thank you to the audience for coming to listen to our discussion on buy online, pick up in store, hybrid e-commerce, and all our other thoughts and feelings around that subject. If you're not familiar with the Trading Through Disruption virtual series, this is a series of discussion with some of Metapack's partners on important subjects that we're hearing about during this crisis. If you'd like to join more of the series, please look at the bottom of the screen where we're sharing the information on that. And if you'd like any more information from myself or Rob, our contact details are on the screen right now. Thanks again, and look forward to sharing more with you all at our next discussion. Stay safe, guys. Bye for now.